Basil. Hi everyone, you're in the garden with Patrick. Today we're going to make some basil pesto. I have posted several videos on how you can grow, prune, and harvest basil in your garden. So check out those videos too. But today we're going to talk all about pesto. So basil is an herb in the mint family, and it adds flavor to meals, and it's nutritious, and it may provide some health benefits too. There are so many uses for basil. All you have to do is be a little creative. I'm doing a series of videos on several uses of basil, and well, we might as well start with a refreshing drink made from lime basil while we're making our pesto. So sweet basil plays a role in many Mediterranean and particularly Italian cuisines. It forms the basis of pesto, and it adds a distinctive flavor to salads, pasta, pizza, and other dishes. There's an estimated 50 to 150 species of basil, and in the diet, sweet basil can provide vitamins, minerals, and a range of antioxidants. Its essential oil may also have medicinal purposes and benefits. We are on location at one of my really good friend's house, Ray, and he has some amazing basil, and we're going to prune some of the basil today. I'm going to show you 3 different varieties that he has here. The first variety is the sweet basil, and you can see by the leaves the different types of basil that we have here. And then this is the organic basil. That's what it's called here. And again, you can see a little difference in the leaves compared to the sweet basil. And you can see just how huge these plants are. This is a tomato cage right here. And what we're going to do, Ray is going to go ahead and prune this. We're going to show you how to prune it, and we're going to take some of that basil and make some pesto. So pretty simple, especially when you're doing something like this. We're going to do some pretty harsh pruning because this plant is kind of pretty overgrown. So you just take your shears and just get in there and snip it. Once he pulls that out, you'll see how large the branch is. And this is just a huge plant. I don't think I've actually ever seen a basil plant this big. There we go. So now look at that. So compare that, and when we take a look at the size of the stalk on this. Just crazy. So this will make some really good pesto. That's pretty much all we'll need. That'll make a ton of pesto, don't you think, Ray?
Yep.
And so now he'll just kind of clean that up a little bit. But again, you can see here, you know, he has some pepper plants here and some other vegetables. And so what we're basically trying to do in this case is to allow the sun to kind of hit those other plants. It's kind of stunting the growth because it's so huge. But so that's what we're doing today. We'll go ahead and show you how we're going to make some basil pesto. So once you've harvested your basil plant, okay, and we've got plenty of our basil here, thanks to our friend Ray, we're going to take the leaves off. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that, but I just wanted to show you a little bit of a, remember we talked about the different varieties of basil. So here there's 2 different basil leaves, and again, you really can't tell the difference. One is that organic and the other one is the sweet basil. So you can kind of see they pretty much look very similar to each other. So we're going to just do the old taste test first, just to see. So this one here in this hand is going to be the organic basil. She's just going to taste it. See what it tastes like. Tastes like basil. And then we're going to taste this sweet basil. And actually the sweet basil, it's a little bit more tart, I think. But it's got a little bit more pungent flavor. So again, depending on whatever pesto you're going to, basil you're going to use in your pesto. Now, again, we talked about our drink here. So I have lime basil that you can use in your drink instead of mint, because remember, pesto or basil is in the mint family. So we have this lime basil, so you can make a drink. You can make a mojito out of your lime basil. So cheers. So once we take our leaves, basically what you're just going to do here with your pesto, how to make your pesto is you're just going to take the leaves, okay, and you're going to pick the leaves off the plant, and you're going to place them into a, again, you can use a salad spinner, or you could just rinse them and dry them. I like the salad spinner because that way you don't have to specifically dry your basil leaves. You're just going to just spin it and it goes dry, and then you can use it. So we're going to go ahead and rinse our leaves so there's no dirt or there's no bugs on there, and then we're going to go ahead and show you the next part of the recipe. So I put about 2 cups of the basil leaves in our salad spinner, and there we go. And you just give it a whirl, give it a spin. And that should be about right. Take that off, and you can see first there's all the water that was on the basil leaves, and we're going to go ahead and remove this. So remove that, and then you have your essentially your dry basil leaves here. Okay, so that's about 2 cups. We'll put that back into our measuring cup here. Okay, I'll put all those in there. And again, that's about 2 cups, okay? I'm sorry. The recipe calls for 2 cups, but I'm making a double batch, so I am using 4 cups. So this is 4 cups of basil leaves here. So okay, so you can kind of pat that down, and that's about 4 cups. Okay. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to take this and we're going to put this into our food processor, and then we'll show you the next step. Oh, so let's get to making some pesto. So this is what we're going to do here, okay? We're going to take, first, I've toasted some pine nuts, okay? Now you can use any type of pine nuts. You can use walnuts, you can use almonds. It doesn't really matter what type of nut. The traditional is made from pine nuts. Now what I did to add a little extra is I roasted my pine nuts. You can see they're a little brown on the edges there. So I roasted my pine nuts, and the recipe, I'm going to post it down in the comments below. But remember, we're doubling this recipe, but for the actual recipe, it calls for 1/4 cup of pine nuts. So I'm using 1/2 cup of pine nuts. We're going to put that into our food processor. Okay. Once we put the our pine nuts in there, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our fresh garlic that we have gotten from where? Our garden, right? So we've chopped that up a little bit. Now it calls for 2 teaspoons, 1 to 2 teaspoons of garlic. So I'm putting, again, we're doubling it, 4 teaspoons. And you're going to take that garlic and you're going to put that into your food processor, and you're going to pulse that a little bit and make sure that that kind of grinds up a little bit. And that's all you need. Okay, so now once we've done that, we're going to add into our mixture our basil. So remember, it's 2 cups for the normal. We're using 4 cups of basil in our recipe that we doubled. And Again, this is our fresh, organic basil, fresh from the garden. Thank you, Ray, for allowing us to have some of your amazing basil. So now we're going to run this so that it's pretty much to a puree, okay? Okay, now once we've done that, you can see some of it's still on the edges. We still have some here, the leaves. So I just want to show you, just so you can see. Okay, so you do this at home. Okay, so there's some leaves that have not been chopped. So what we're just going to do, we're going to take that and we are going to get a little spatula and we're going to take that and push that down. And we'll run that a little bit more, okay? So that's basically what you're going to do to make sure that all of that pesto is the same uniformity, or really the basil leaves. Okay, so now we've gotten that. Now, pretty much we've gotten most of that. Then we're going to start adding our oil, okay? Now, from there, once we have the pesto, and again, let me show you this real quick, just so you can see. So it's a very nice consistency throughout, okay? So you can see that. Now, what you're going to do is we're going to add oil to this mixture. So I'm going to just push that down one more time. And I would advise to use extra virgin olive oil. And, use the good stuff, especially for this, okay? And once you have that, you're going to close this back up, and then we're going to put oil in. Now the recipe itself, it calls for, and I'm going to just measure so we can have an idea here, but it calls for a half a cup of olive oil to this mixture. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour right now just a half a cup for starters, and then what we'll do is we'll show you how much we need, because again, really it's based on what the consistency that you like and you want on your pesto. So this is coming out nice and slow. So well, we'll try this. We'll try this amount of oil. This is getting close to, that's a quarter cup right there. So again, let's just see how the quarter cup goes. And when we do this, we're going to, let's open this up here. I'm going to put this back in. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and just turn on our, and slowly pour in our oil. Okay, so let that go for a minute. Now again, that's a quarter cup, and it calls for, really in this doubled recipe, it calls for about a cup of oil, okay? So we can look at that and we can say, is this the pesto that you want? Or do you want it to be maybe a little bit more, I guess, not as thick, okay? So I'm going to put a little bit more oil in there. And that way we have a little bit more, because we're going to add one more secret ingredient, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and so that's about another quarter cup probably, okay? And now you can see beautiful green color. Oh my gosh, it just smells so good. I wish you had smell-o-vision on your YouTube. But again, now this is a little bit more, okay? Now what we're gonna add before we finish up is you always want to season your herbs or your vegetables, so we're just going to add a little bit of salt, like a pinch of salt. Again, I'm doubling this, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay, you add a little salt, and then Parmesan or Romano cheese. Okay, and again, I'm putting in 1 cup. The recipe calls for ½ cup for your single serving. Okay. So now we're going to close this up again, and I might just want to add, on this one we're just going to pulse it, okay, just to kind of mix everything together. And again, I kind of like the consistency right now of the way this looks. So I think I'm going to just leave it the way it is here, okay? So let's take a look real quick on what this looks like. We're just going to pour this into here. Let's pour it this way so you can see. I think you can see that, right? Here, let me just do this real quick so you can see it, and then that way. So this is a double batch, and this is going to make, I don't know, looks maybe about like ½ cup, maybe about a cup. So it kind of goes down to about a little bit less. So again, there's your pesto. Take a look at that. Yummy. Okay, so this is how your consistency of your, the way I'm going to make my pesto. Again, you can put a little bit more olive oil in there, and you can make it however you want it. And you can make it a little bit more runny. Or you can leave it the way it is, nice and thick. So this is an awesome way to use your basil that you have in your garden. And I'm going to just try some of this. Oh, so good. This is really good. So if you want the recipe, check the comments below. If you've made pesto a different way, let me know. I'd be really interested to know how your pesto looks and how you do pesto at home. And we're going to put this in a jar, and we're going to just make sure that we have this in some sandwiches. You can put it on pasta. You can do all kinds of stuff with your pesto. And cheers, everyone.